Places, everybody. This is a tape.
What is that?
And 1, 2, 2.
I'm wishing for the one I love.
Hooray for Hollywood! When you're terrific if you're even good.
Lights. Camera.
Action!
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I am your host, Lou Mongello, and this is show number 261 for the week of February 12th, 2012. With the Academy Awards coming up soon, I thought it would be interesting to take a look at Walt Disney and the Oscars. Recorded live at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Walt Disney World, Jim Korkis and I look at and discuss the history of the awards ceremony, Walt's unparalleled achievements, the Oscars that can be found at the studios and elsewhere, stories about Walt at the Academy Awards, and much, much more. I'll also share the 3 announcements we made during this past weekend's live 5-year anniversary event in Walt Disney World before playing more of your voicemails at the end of the show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show.
Gala event, unusual even for Hollywood. The world premiere of Walt Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Rarely has Hollywood been so agog over the opening of a motion picture. The town's been talking about it for months. Practically the entire movie colony will be at the opening tonight, and you're going along too. As we take you to the Carthay Circle Theater for the premiere of Walt Disney's full-length Technicolor production, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We take you now to the Carthay Circle Theater.
A famous quote by Walt Disney always asks us and reminds us that it was all started by a mouse, but in fact, it was all started by Walt Disney. And Walt Disney, first and foremost, was a master storyteller. And while we experience Walt Disney World in sort of a 3D storytelling environment, oftentimes in which we are active participants, he began by telling his story in 2 dimensions, in film, in animation, and in shorts. And over the years, that mastery of storytelling was recognized in many ways. And with the Academy Awards coming up very soon, we thought it would be fun and take an interesting look back at Walt Disney and his connection to the Academy Awards. And of course, what better place to record this than the Animation Gallery here at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And of course, what better person to record this with than, of course, Jim Korkis. He is the author of The Vault and Walt. He's a contributor to Celebrations Magazine, frequent guest on the show, and good friend. Of course, Jim, welcome back.
Well, you know, Lou, you told me it was going to be fun. It's around the time of the Oscars, and of course that's when people, you know, talk about Walt and all the Oscars that he won in the past. But I didn't realize you were going to insist that we dress in these tuxedos. And, you know, I'm wearing a cummerbund, and there's a lot more Jim Korkis than there is cummerbund. I'm telling you that. right now. So, I'm still going to try and keep my happy face as we go to this. And
Jim, I'm telling you, you and I single-handedly are going to bring back the top hat and monocle. Just keep. You look. Trust me. You look like Mr. Peanut, but just keep walking around the park, and you can bring back the monocle.
Well, I was hoping to look like James Bond or George Clooney rather than Homer Simpson, but that's okay. And again, as a California boy, I actually attended some of the Academy Award presentations as a screaming fan along the side there. However, I was an extra in a live-action short that was nominated for an Academy Award. Did not win, but was nominated. And if any of your listeners can dig that up, I'll have a very special surprise for them.
Condor Man. It was a Condor.
Oh no, the Condor Man costume is still in the closet for when I find that right woman who has just that right sense of humor to appreciate that. Well, Lou, what do you know about Walt and the Academy Awards? Do you have any idea? He was, of course, the one individual who won the most Academy Awards as an individual. Do you have any idea how many of those are?
Yeah, well, we know that, again, I preface this by saying he was very much recognized in many circles, but certainly the pinnacle is the Academy Awards. And he holds numerous records as far as individual nominations at 59, the number that was awarded at 22. He also received 4 honorary Oscars dating back as early. For 1931, he received an Oscar for creating Mickey Mouse. I mean, that's how important the Academy felt that was. And as we talk about us sitting here sort of in this gallery, that Oscar actually sits here. In 1938, he received one for Snow White for significant screen innovations. And again, we'll talk about why that award itself, that award for Snow White was significant in and of itself. 1941, for the sound in Fantasia. And also that year, he received the highest honor, which is the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award.
Well, that's all I've got to say. We're going to wrap
Good
up.
night, everybody. We're done.
Good night, everybody. This is fine. Actually, I have a few more things to say. In fact, do you know where the largest private collection of Academy Awards are outside of Hollywood? The largest private collection?
You're looking at me like, Lou, you're going to say what you think is right, but it's going to be a stupid answer. But I'm going to throw out there the Walt Disney Family Museum.
Absolutely correct. And in fact, I had the wonderful opportunity to go out there and speak in July of 2011. And they've said they're going to be inviting me back. And it's really impressive to see all of those Oscars because, again, they belong to Walt, and they really do belong to Walt because what happened in the last couple of decades here is the Academy was upset that people were selling their Oscars. So now when you get an Oscar, you are not given the Oscar until you sign the waiver that if you or your heirs decide to get rid of the Oscar, you sell it back to the Academy for $1. However, before that form went into effect, and Walt had passed away long before that form was even created, Oscars could be sold. So just recently, Orson Welles' Oscar for the screenplay, best screenplay for Citizen Kane, sold for several $100,000 for that. But yes, that's very impressive. Now, for those who don't know, the background of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences was a concept of Louis B. Mayer, who was a movie producer, because films really weren't getting much appreciation. They were considered fairly lowbrow entertainment and all that. So he felt that there should be an organization created to give status and respect to the motion picture industry, which is why even today films that get nominated for Academy Award are not the ones that create the biggest gross at the box office or whatever. They're the ones that are supposed to. It's not about commerce. It's about art. It's about what's going to promote the art. And so May 1929 is when the first nameless awards, they weren't called Oscars in those days, were given out. And in 1932, because they kept expanding categories. In 1932, they created the Short Subjects Award category, and there were 3 categories, cartoons, comedy, and novelty. And the cartoon era was created specifically for Walt Disney, because Walt Disney was doing such amazing things in short animated cartoons that they wanted to acknowledge that and recognize that. And, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding there when people go, well, Walt won, 22 Academy Awards, and those are ones that he won personally. It's not like Julie Andrews winning Best Actress for Mary Poppins, and that's a Disney film, so that could count towards the Disney thing. These were the ones that Walt got personally, but he was nominated 59 times, and you go, wow. But that's sort of misleading, because sometimes multiple Disney cartoons were nominated in the same year. So, for instance, in 1938, the nominees for Best Cartoon were Brave Little Tailor, wonderful Mickey Mouse cartoon, iconic cartoon, Mother Goose Goes Hollywood, which was a special favorite, especially for those in the Hollywood community, Good Scouts, which was a Donald Duck cartoon, and Ferdinand the Bull. Ferdinand the Bull won, but you have 3 other cartoons, so that's where some of those nominations are, and you don't have that. And Disney continued winning the cartoon, animated short cartoon award from 1932 to 1939, which was The Ugly Duckling. In 1940, broke the streak. No Disney cartoons were nominated. The winner was Milky Way, which was an MGM cartoon about cute little kittens who dream about going in a little boat through or a balloon, I guess, through the Milky Way. The other 2 cartoons that didn't win was Puss Gets the Boot, which was the original Tom and Jerry cartoon, and A Wild Hare, which is officially considered the first Bugs Bunny cartoon. But let's talk a little bit about 1932 and Flowers and Trees, and because that's such an important milestone. A cartoon using 3-strip Technicolor, and sometimes it's a hard sit nowadays to sit through Flowers and Trees, but it was there. But at that ceremony, the ceremony for the 1932 awards, Walt established one of his first milestones. He was given a special award for the creation of Mickey Mouse. That was only the second time that a special award had been created. The first one was for Charlie Chaplin and his contribution. Charlie Chaplin was actually supposed to present the award to Walt, and was, of course, a hero of Walt's, and for some reason Charlie Chaplin just decided to stay home that night. And then also Flowers and Trees, of course, won as Best Short Subject. And right up until 1941, the winners knew ahead of time. And the reason the winners knew ahead of time is you had to let the newspaper people know so that they could meet their deadlines for the newspaper the next day and all that. And so since Walt knew that he was going to win twice in 1932, and the milestone there is, my gosh, this is the first person in Academy Award history who takes home 2 Academy Awards at one ceremony. Walt created a little 2.5-minute short called Parade of the Award Nominees. I think it's an extra on one of the Disney Treasures section, and basically what happened is they caricature the nominees for Best Actor and Best Actress, and they have Mickey Mouse in color for the first time. So this is 32. This is years before band concert. He's wearing green shorts, and he's walking down a red carpet, and following are these caricatures of all of this. And the newspapers the next day said the cartoon got a huge laugh, and in fact, judging by applause, the 2 people that the Academy just absolutely went crazy for were Walt Disney and Helen Hayes, who won Best Actress in those years. And another significant Oscar was the one for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You've seen that in person, right?
And for years, many guests who came through the animation gallery were able to see that as well, because as you come out from what is now the Animation Academy, or you walk through the exhibit, in this one area here, which is, I sort of refer to it as the Snow White room, because on 2 of the 4 walls are shadow boxes with images of concept art and drawings from Snow White. White. But in the center of this room is a round plexiglass case that holds 3 tiers of Oscars, some of which we learned today are duplicates. Some were actually original, including the 1931 for the creation of Mickey Mouse. But at a time, it showed the very special Oscar that was created for Snow White, because it had a single full-size Oscar and 7 smaller miniature Oscars next to it.
And it was moved for a time over to the One Man's Dream attraction, and now it's on display at the Disney Family Museum at the Presidio in San Francisco, and I cannot recommend highly enough that you go visit that museum. Wonderfully designed, and the staff that work there are professional, and they're pleasant, and really captures the feel of Walt. And what happened, of course, was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the highest grossing movie of all time, so the Academy felt we've got to acknowledge this, but we don't want to nominate it for Best Picture. This is a cartoon. We don't want to give it, all of that. What are we going to, let alone give it an award for that?
That'll never happen.
That'll never happen. Cartoons, those are for kids. At the time, the Academy president was director Frank Capra, and so he came up with the idea of, we're going to give it a special award, and the special award will be the one big Oscar and then 7 little Oscars going down, sort of a descending wooden, plateau over there. And even though Walt was very insistent that he didn't make cartoons just for kids, he made them for the entire family, they thought, we're going to have the top child star, Shirley Temple, do the presentation, representing all of the children of the world that would do this. Now, Shirley Temple was about 10, 11 years old at that time, and she was given her dinner there at the Academy at 5 o'clock, but now it's hours before she has to give that award. And she told animation historian John Culhane that, she got really bored. She'd be sitting there and counting how many men in the room had mustaches and what people were wearing or not wearing. She was referring to Jean Harlow and a couple of those others at that point. And she took a hard roll and she was crumbling it into little itty-bitty bits. And then she took her mother's hard roll off her plate and was crumbling that and building up a little pyramid in front of her and, that type of thing. But she went up there and she, again, really professional. We've seen film clips of that where she has that and she removes the cloth from the awards and goes, "Oh, Mr. Disney, isn't it bright and shiny?" Somebody asked her, well, did somebody write that for you? And she said, no, unfortunately, I came up with those things myself. She said in those days, people, knew how to ad-lib and improvise. She said, I'm sure that those people who knew they were going to win an award probably wrote out what their acceptance speech was, which was a lot shorter in those days. But she said it really bothered her for the rest of the night once she did that, because she thought the big Oscar was for Walt and the little 7 ones were for the dwarves, but that Snow White didn't get an Oscar. And so for years she was a little upset that Snow White was not there and Snow White did not get her Oscar. And you were talking about honorary awards. We just talked about the creation of Mickey Mouse. In 1942, Walt got another honorary award, the Irving Thalberg Award. Do you know anything about that, Lou?
Other than that, it's, from what I understand, sort of the highest honor of an Oscar. It's sort of a Lifetime Achievement Award Oscar.
It is. And that's interesting that you say Lifetime Achievement, because Walt was the youngest person to ever receive it. It's not given every year. It started in 1937, and it was to honor Irving Thalberg, who was a producer over at MGM Studios, and he was responsible for some of the most magnificent films, and so people always felt, very sad when he passed away, much too young. So this was a huge honor, and David O. Selznick, the producer, presented that, and when he presented it, he basically said, Walt has just been magnificent, and especially Fantasia, which introduced the music of Beethoven and Bach and Tchaikovsky. It it really contributed to the musical education of the entire public. And Walt came up, and Walt started crying. In fact, the next day in Daily Variety, the headline was "Walt Disney weeps as he gets Oscar," and Walt was saying, well, thank you so much for this. And then, interestingly, and this is a quote that we never see used by Walt, he said, maybe I should get a medal for bravery instead. He says, we all make mistakes. Fantasia was one, but it was an honest one. I shall now rededicate myself to my old ideals. Even though, as you pointed out, he shared with two other people a Special Academy Award for the Fantasound, and he was just, he said, there's a vote of confidence from the whole industry, and he's crying through the whole thing. He goes back and he sits down, and actress Norma Shearer, who was Irving Thalberg's widow, came over and gave him a little kiss to comfort him. And the Thalberg Award isn't like a regular Oscar. It's sort of a bust of Thalberg's face, and she didn't like, Walt was the fourth person to ever get the award, didn't like the bust, so she paid herself to have an entirely new one sculpted, and so she sent it to Walt and the previous three winners. So Walt actually may have two Thalberg awards, including a limited edition special one there in his collection. But Walt didn't just win awards; he helped other people, of course, win awards. You know the story behind "Song of the South" and the award?
The only thing I know is that it has to do with James Baskett, who played Uncle Remus.
Absolutely. What happened is Walt was just so pleased with Baskett's performance in Song of the South, and in fact, even though there was controversy surrounding the film, just about every critic said, this guy's given a terrific performance. He's so warm, and he's so funny, and it's so natural. It's everything that you think, in terms of acting. But again, remember, this is 1947, 1948, and so the odds of an African-American man winning an Academy Award were pretty extreme in those days, even though Hattie McDaniel won an award for playing in Gone with the Wind, but it was a Best Supporting Actress award. And then the sad thing was she goes to the Oscar banquet, and she and her husband are sort of marginalized from, the rest of the group. And that's the way it was in those days. But Walt wrote a personal letter to Jean Hersholt, who was the president of the Academy at that time, about all the reasons why Baskett should get an award and all of this. And then Disney leveraged his friendships with other people. Hedda Hopper did a whole campaign and all of that. And so sure enough, on March 20th, 1948, James Baskett received a honorary Oscar for his able and heartwarming characterization of Uncle Remus, friend and storyteller to the children of the world. It was presented by Ingrid Bergman, and so he was the first African-American male to receive an Academy Award. Sidney Poitier, of course, won the first competitive Oscar in '63 for Lilies of the Field. And tragically, however, and this may be one of the reasons that Walt was lobbying so hard, is Baskett died of heart problems and complications from diabetes at the age of 44. So just 5 months after getting that Oscar. But boy, that was really nice. In fact, there's a story about Walt gave away an Oscar once.
Well, the only thing going back to James Baskett and the award is, that is, I think, one of the unfortunate things about Song of the South not being out for release, and probably never going to be released again because of that controversy that you alluded to, is not only is his such a wonderful character, such a redeeming character, but his performance is so good, and he tells such great stories that it's unfortunate that most people will probably never get to see it.
Well, his performance was so good that Walt, during production, signed him to additional pictures, figuring that he would do a sequel or 2 sequels as Uncle Remus, and so had the animation department, developing other possible storylines for that. But with the Academy Awards, it's interesting because they're honoring the art and something outstanding, and I think this is a real example of that. But at the time, sometimes people can't see the art. Even in the 40s, Walt was worried about the environment, and that the frontier was disappearing. And so he had Alfred and Elma Millot, who owned a camera shop up in Alaska, and he figured that was one of the last frontiers, and he said, I'm going to pay you personally, just go out and shoot everything about Alaska, shoot the Eskimos, shoot businesses, logging, the whole bit. And so they would send him back literally hours and hours of film. And Walt said, well, I like the bit about the seals. Go back and just film seals, but don't show any human involvement. And then that stitched together as Seal Island. But in those days, RKO was distributing the Disney films, and they said, nobody wants to see a nature film. And to make it worse, it was 27 minutes long, which was longer than the usual short, at that time, which ran closer to 15, 20 minutes. And they said, and besides, when people see the name Disney, they're going to expect a cartoon. There's no cartoon seals in this, whatever. We're not going to take a chance and throw, you're Walt Disney, but this is a waste of money. And so Walt leveraged his friendship with the person who ran the Pasadena Crown Theater in Pasadena, California, to show Seal Island for 1 week in December, so that it would qualify for an Academy Award, because that's one of the things that has to happen. Is there's all sorts of requirements. One of them is it has to be shown in a major theater for X amount of time to, and those things change, but it all has to be shown before the end of December, so it can be qualified. And not only did it qualify for a nomination, but it won the award. And so the very next day, Walt took the Academy Award into his brother Roy's office, and he says, here, Roy, take this over to RKO and hit him over the head with it. And so confronted with the Oscar, RKO released Seal Island, and again, the True Life Adventure series began and was very popular. But then when Walt wanted to do a feature-length True Life Adventure series, RKO says, no, that we were wrong about that, but we're right about this. This is insane. And that's the time that the Disney company started the Buena Vista Distribution Company, just to do that. The thing with this tux here is, it's really binding. And I didn't even get any marzipans this holiday season. There are no marzipans in Central Florida. I remember going to Billy's Deli in Glendale, California, in marzipans for Christmas, and they had these big shortbread, round shortbread cookies with this big glob of dark chocolate in the center, and then they had these, I think they're called Linzer tarts or whatever, where they're these cookies, and in between there's the raspberry jam and there's the powder, and so when people say, what do you miss about, do you miss Hollywood? I miss that type of food, and In-N-Out burgers and all of that. So,
Jim, I'm usually the one that people say, somehow, Lou, you turn everything into food. You just talked about a discussion of Walt Disney and his True Life Adventures and the Oscars into food. But I will tell you, what else they're missing in Florida is good bagels and good pizza. Oh, it's the water. So it is definitely the water. But
so what I'm saying here
how did I get so heavy? I have no idea.
No. What I'm saying here is, again, it's one thing standing in the tux, but sitting down in the tux, it's pressing against there and it's crying out, why don't we take a little break, grab a bite to eat, and we'll finish this up because I've got a lot more stories to tell. Okay?
Sounds good. As you probably can tell by the background sound, we've moved outside of the animation gallery out into the main central courtyard here by the crossroads of the world, because Jim, in a brilliant segue of one place to another, and by brilliant I mean completely accidental, we are sitting across from Oscar's Super Service Station, tying it again to our conversation about Walt Disney and the Oscars.
And yes, because again, Oscar's Super Service references the Academy Awards, and we were thinking, as long as we're in the tuxedos, why are we holed up in that little area that nobody is paying any attention to? We might as well come out where we can just show off and preen like peacocks. One of the things that we didn't mention, however, while we were in the animation gallery, is when you take a look at those Academy Awards, take a look very closely at the bottom of the little plaque. If you've got those sharp eyes or your magnifying glass, it'll show you that these are duplicates. Once upon a time, there were originals, but the originals are now at the Disney Family Museum.
Well, I think that there were a couple that were originals, but I think for the most part, they're duplicates. Again, the one on the top we think is the original, the one that he received from Mickey Mouse, and I think we saw maybe one other one that was maybe an original.
Yes. So this will be a fun game for you and your family to do in your spare time. You know, Walt didn't just receive Oscars, he actually gave Oscars. At the 1953 Academy Awards, he was presenting the Music Awards. You know, in 37 he had presented Short Subjects, and in 43 he presented the Thalberg Award to Sidney Franklin. But the first time that the Academy Awards were broadcast on TV was on NBC in 1953, and so they wanted to, you know, really have a good show. So Bob Hope was the MC, and he introduced Walt, and he said it's Walt is the perfect person to give the Music Award because of all of his work on Fantasia and all the music for his pictures. And Bob literally said, Walt had to fight his way through all the Oscars in his living room to get to our stage tonight, but he made it here tonight. And so Walt got up there, but a lot of us don't realize that Walt was very shy. You know, we always see him on TV, and he seems, very friendly and outgoing and all that, and that certainly was part of his personality. But he was also was very shy, and he got up there, and he was just, mangling the names of the songs and the composers. I don't know whether it was nervousness or whatever, or just because some of the names were tough, like Dmitri Tiomkin, who did High Noon, all of that. So he never got asked back to be a presenter after that. But in the following year, 1954, huge milestone at the Academy Awards for Walt. He won 4 Academy Awards. He won Best Cartoon Short Subject, which was Toot Whistle Plunkin' Boom. Best Documentary Short Subject, The Alaskan Eskimo. The Best Documentary Feature, The Living Desert. And the Best 2-Reel Short Subject, Bear Country. And once again, Bear Country was up against one of my favorite little featurettes, Ben and Me. Now, I had the great opportunity to interview Disney legend Ward Kimball a couple of times, and in fact, one of the reasons I love doing these podcasts is I feel a great responsibility that I got to meet some of these people who are no longer here and want to share their stories. And Ward always grumbled that, he was nominated for Toot Whistle Plunkin' Boom, and he did show up at the awards. He wanted to go up and collect the award, but Disney Publicity talked to him and said, well, Walt's nominated for 4. We think the odds are Walt might get more than 1 award, and it would make a better show if Walt went up there and picked them up each time. And Kimball grumbled, and he says, they were absolutely right. It was a good show all 4 times he went up there to get that. In fact, when Walt got the 4th one, he basically said, this is very wonderful, but I think this is the year I should retire. And so you would think, my gosh, what a wonderful moment in the life of Walt Disney, winning 4 Academy Awards. Nobody had ever done that ever before. There are pictures you can look on the internet, of him holding 4 awards and all of this. And he came home, and his wife would not let him in the house. And it was because Walt said, "You don't need to come to the awards tonight. We might win one, but that's about it." And she was watching on TV, and this guy won 4. So she locked him out of the house. So the publicist had to drive Walt back to the Disney studios, and Walt had a little apartment there by his office. So he had to sleep there overnight. So that's about it.
Even Walt got sent to the couch every now and then.
That's very true.
Because you won 4 Academy Awards.
I know. Well, he got back in Lily's good graces, because in the early 60s what he did was he was going to have her a necklace made for her, and each would have a little Oscar charm representing each of the Oscars that he had won, and on the bottom it would be engraved, for what film or achievement, whatever. And when Lily found out, she said she preferred having a bracelet, so he had a bracelet made, 20 little Oscars on it, and again he had to get special permission from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences to duplicate that figure, because that figure is not just copyrighted but trademarked, and as we can see with the RKO story, a possible weapon that you could use. So, for instance, the Oscars that we have over here at Disney's Hollywood Studios, the duplicates, you had to get permission made. Now, one of the questions that Lou brought up to me that I didn't have an answer for, because nobody can know everything, not even Jim Korkis, and that was whether Disney duplicated those Oscars or whether the Academy then comes up with the duplicate, and I don't have an answer for that, and so I'm not even going to make a guess.
I'll put myself potentially under the bus, and as I start to think out the answer, I would probably think that because the Academy would require even permission to create something like a piece of jewelry, maybe they would want control of how a duplicate would look, so you would have to maybe buy a duplicate from them if you could commission them to create one, so you didn't make one that was inaccurate. Or they would make one that was not exactly a perfect replica. There might be something slightly different, so you couldn't pass it off as a real Oscar.
And that's Lou's story, and he's sticking to it.
Why not?
But again, I really want to emphasize, because I never want to come across as this big know-it-all, because I've run into people like that, because oftentimes I'll run into people who want to go up against the fastest gun in town, and so they want to go, you were wrong on such and such, or you didn't know that, and they're always shocked that with a great big smile I say, well, thank you very much. I'd really like to know more about that. And those of you who are listening to these podcasts, you may have that one piece of information we never have. So please make sure you write into the comment section so that other people can share that information too, and do that. When we talk about Walt winning individual personal Oscars, there were some that just, the Disney company won. Like Mary Poppins is the only feature film Walt ever produced that was nominated for Best Picture. And Walt always said, well, I knew we weren't going to get that one because, we're really not part of Hollywood. They think of us out in the cornfield in Burbank. But Mary Poppins was nominated for 13 Academy Awards, and out of that 13, Lou, do you have any idea how many they won?
I'm going to guess, but like you, I'm only human, and say 5.
5 is absolutely correct. Can you name one of them?
Best Actress for Julie Andrews, and I know that because I had Julie on the show.
And how was Julie? How was Julie in person? Now that Julie's no longer here, you can give us the whole thing. Is she as charming and as gracious, or
I cannot believe you penned those 2 words, because the 2 words I said it was, she was incredibly charming, she was incredibly gracious, and Jim, if nobody else would have listened to that show, it was such a moment for me because of what Mary Poppins meant to me as a kid growing up. It's my favorite Disney movie. And at the end, when we were done recording and we were just chatting for a few minutes again, she was so kind with the time. And she goes, "Oh, Lou, you, brother. I went like, Mary Poppins, you called my name. It was awesome. It was like the first time we hugged. It was that life-changing kind of experience.
And you haven't taken a shower since, right? No, that's absolutely true, because I have friends in DSA, Disney Special Activities. They do the VIP tours, and one of them hosted Julie Andrews and said, "Oh yes, she is absolutely one." And they don't say that about every celebrity. I could tell you stories, but I know that WDW Radio is Disney positive, so those will have to wait for the evil Lou Mangello sites. One of the things that about Disney that always confuses me is, how many animated films did they really produce? Because they'd go through that whole thing that if a new film was coming out, they wanted to promote it as the 25th animated feature. So sometimes earlier films got dropped from, or things got added. Well, there's a Disney animated feature that's as much a feature as Melody Time or Make My Music or whatever, that a lot of people forgot. It's called the Academy Award Review of Walt Disney Cartoons. It was released in May of 1937 to bring, some attention to Snow White being released, that, Disney, look at all the excellence that Disney has put into cartoons and all of that. And it featured Flowers and Trees, Three Little Pigs, Tortoise and the Hare, Three Orphan Kittens, Country Cousin, and they had a narrator and title cards. And then that compilation was also re-released in 1966 with 4 additional shorts, Old Mill, Ferdinand the Bull, Ugly Duckling, Lend a Paw, and believe it or not, there's a Japanese Laserdisc bilingual that was released in 1985.
I've never even heard of it.
With those, see, that's why Jim Korkis is the Disney historian. And you probably haven't heard of the Disney animated feature that Disney made to get out of its contract with RKO. To get out of its contract with RKO for Disney to distribute its own films, it owed one more film to RKO. So what they did is they put together a feature, so you can search this on Google and all that, called Music Land. So they took cartoons from Make Mine Music, and they took cartoons from Melody Time, and they stitched together an entire new feature with a new opening. They called it Music Land. They released it so that RKO could get some money from releasing a Disney film, and that was the last Disney feature released by RKO before Disney started releasing its own. And again, that's fallen by the wayside. You never see that appear on any lists. But again, that's part of the joy of listening to this podcast. And I will tell you that I'm not just a participant in this podcast. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan personally of Lou Mangello, who is one of the kindest, most generous people I know. And to let you in on a secret, we stopped recording about the Oscars in that room, not because we were really going to go get a bite to eat or whatever, but some of Lou's many fans had gathered around, and they were very respectful, but they were taking some photos, they were videotaping, so I could see Lou getting antsy. I knew I was getting antsy. We purposely stopped so we could go over, we could talk to them, because as my parents taught me, things aren't important in life, people are important. And every time I do a podcast with Lou in the parks, we run into Lou's fans who come up. They recognize his voice. They recognize what he looks like. People come up to me and they go, "Are you George Clooney?" And I go, "No, I'm Jim Korkis." And they're tremendously disappointed. But I will tell you that both Lou and I really enjoy that interaction with you, especially when you come up and you say, "I love those podcasts." I've shared those with so many of my friends. That's one of the reasons that we put in so much time. This seems so smooth, but Lou and I do an awful lot of research. We come together, we talk, we walk the area, and then we do the podcast, so you don't get any fluff. You get all the solid stuff. Thank you very much, as always, for all of your support. We always look forward to seeing you. And, I think it's almost about time for the Oscars.
It is. And I want to, and you were very kind, I want to sort of finish this up and sort of wrap this up with a question for you, because we talk about Walt and about his accomplishments and the records that he had set with the Oscars as far as the number of his nominations and the personal. And you talked at the very beginning about how the Oscars were created to honor movie making, the art of movie making. And, Walt said, he goes, I didn't make pictures just to make money. I make money to make more pictures. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very much a testament to the the artistry that it takes to create the films that he did. And with all the films that he made and the nominations he had and the awards he won, do you ever think that could be duplicated? Do you ever think that those records could be surpassed?
Well, you should never say never, of course, but I would say that's highly unlikely, and I'm old enough to have lived through so many people being trotted out as the new Walt Disney. At one point, Don Bluth was going to be the new Walt Disney. There are people today who don't even know who Don Bluth is. I think Jim Henson had a good chance at that if he had some more years. Although the films he made didn't have that. If you take a look at his short film Timepiece that he made and a couple of other things, if he had been out of the restrictions of handling a business and just into the art, who knows what he could have done. But even Steven Spielberg, who is probably one of our most awarded and recognized directors, and there are Steven Spielberg films I absolutely love. Raiders of the Lost Ark, if I had to take a film to the desert island, that'd be one I'd take because I can watch it over and over and over. But even he doesn't come close to Walt Disney. Walt Disney truly was one of a kind, just the most amazing man. And I will say that after decades of researching his life and talking with other people, he's just more amazing to me. And what's amazing even more is that thanks to the internet, thanks to all the communication we have, just within the last year or two, we're discovering even more about Walt Disney that we never even knew. But I can't think of a filmmaker out there who is producing the way that Walt Disney does, whether it's in animation, whether it's in live action, whether it's just in film in general. Even Hanna-Barbera, who won so many Academy Awards for their animated shorts, didn't even come close to what Walt did with animated shorts. When you come to the filmmakers, and every film had Disney's imprint, whether it was produced by Bill Walsh or it was written by whoever. Walt's thumbprint was all over all of that, and that was always the secret to Disney was Walt. And
that's what I was going to say, is that no matter what the company produced, there was always a bit of Walt in it. And I think you're right. And I think, Walt was more than just a filmmaker and a storyteller. He was more than an icon because his storytelling went so far beyond the confines of just movie making alone.
Again, Lou, absolutely correct. And I think Walt would have loved some of the movies that are out there now. I got a chance to see The Artist at the Enzion. And when you come out to Florida, you should probably go to the Enzion. It's a movie theater that was an old house, and it's got tiered seating and carpet, and you got the round tables, and you got the rolly chairs, and they bring you out gourmet food and all of that, and you get to see these things. I saw The Artist. Absolutely magnificent filmmaking. I saw it with my friend Greg Ehrbar and his daughter, and we're both highly critical about story in film. We had nothing. Days later, we were still talking about how great it was and all the things that were there. And I think Walt, if he had lived, would have pushed further, because I remember him once telling his son-in-law, Ron Miller, they were watching, the Gregory Peck movie, To Kill a Mockingbird. And Walt said, I wish we could make films like that. And I think if Walt had lived, he would have found a way to have a little niche part of Disney making films that would have amazed us.
And do you think, and I know it's you can't sort of imagine what Walt would think, but do you think the Disney company is doing that? And again, do you think the Disney company has started to or has been making films like that again, or does the imprint of some of the creative people that are now part of the company, like a John Lasseter? Not that he is the second coming of Walt Disney, but does he have that too? Does he have that sort of same belief in the importance of story, and maybe is putting a little ghost of Walt's imprint on new movies?
Well, we'll have to see. I don't think there's a strong personality. Walt was a very strong personality. I don't think there's a strong personality behind all of Disney filmmaking now. That yes, there may be a really good film released, but that has no relationship to what another film was released. And again, I think a lot of other fingers are in the pie, that sometimes films are being made not because they're a good film, but because of merchandising potential or synergy potential to connect it with the parks or other Disney projects. And again, I don't deride that. That can be absolutely fine, but you still need to have a good film. You can't make it just for the merchandising. You can't make it just for those synergy connections. For instance, John Carter is coming up. Is that going to be a hit? Is that going to be a big franchise, or is that going to be a disappointment like Prince of Persia? Nobody ever sets out to make a bad film. Nobody ever says, well, I got $40 million here. I'm just going to blow it on the worst film with the worst story and cast the wrong people into it. And everybody sets out, even Ed Wood, to make the best possible film. But you really need to have a vision. Walt had a vision. I don't know, and I'm serious, I don't know, I'm not being critical. I don't know that there is a strong vision or one person with a strong vision in the Disney Film Company now. I'm hoping that there will be. Because I want to see Disney succeed. I want Disney to last forever and ever and ever, After Jim Korkis is gone, I want Disney to go on, That's about it. And I don't even know if Disney has any. Well, they haven't. Whether there's going to be nominations for Disney films, and if Disney's going to win any of those this year, you never know. You never know.
Well, we can probably say that there will probably never be, and there never should be, another Walt Disney. Certainly there could never be another Jim Korkis, and I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing, but there'll never be another Jim Korkis, who, by the way, is not only a frequent contributor to the show and Celebrations magazine, but he is, of course, the author of The Vault of Walt. Highly, highly recommended for any Disney fans library. I'll put links in the show notes for this week to where you can pick it up on Amazon in paperback or a Kindle version. Jim Korkis is always a lot of fun. I love being able to sort of look at the parks and the details and the stories, but sometimes step outside a little bit, and we sort of tied in the Oscars that we found referenced and seen throughout the parks, and to talking a little bit about Walt too. And I like making sure that we all really don't ever forget that it really did start with Walt Disney. So always enjoy doing this. You have to come back again. I promise, not in a tuxedo.
I've already taken off the cummerbund here.
Yeah, security's on its way.
Yes, to roll me back into the ocean. Now, I one last thing I would say to your readers is, celebrate the Academy Awards this time or any time. Pull out some of those Academy Award-winning films, especially from the time of Walt, and have your own little film marathon. Or even pull out some films, Disney films, that you haven't seen in a while or you never saw. I will tell you, I had great fun a month ago pulling out Summer Magic by Haley Mills to take a look at it, because I was writing an article about Summer Magic references on Main Street in...
Osh Popham! I love Osh Popham!
Oh, Osh Popham is only one of several Summer Magic references on Main Street.
Look how wide your eyes got when you said that.
Because it was so exciting. Maybe this is a future podcast. But again, I hadn't seen Summer Magic in quite a while, and it's a fluff of a film, but it's so nice. And the Sherman Brothers songs, and Haley Mills, I don't think has ever been prettier, and she was nominated for an Academy Award for that one. So pull out some of those and enjoy. They shouldn't just be on your Shelves, just like stories, they should be pulled out and enjoyed. Lou, a pleasure, and all I've got to say is, let's go to the movies.
Awesome. Thanks again, Jim.
Hey.
This past Saturday, February 11th, 2012, we marked and celebrated the actual 5-year anniversary of WDW Radio to the day when the show started back in 2007. On that day, we spent a 5-hour adventure in the Magic Kingdom doing tasks that were chosen by and voted on by you, as well as a couple of roadblocks here and there, with a day that was really filled with some true Disney magic, not just for us, but the things that we were able to do for others, thanks to you and your suggestions. And I think that shows so much about the spirit of Disney in this community and in this WDW Radio family. After the 5-hour adventure, we had our Meet of the Month and 5-year anniversary party over at Baby Cakes in downtown Disney. We announced the winners, plural, of the trivia contest, thanks to Mouse Fan Travel. We're going to talk more about the day's events and the party and the trivia contest soon. We're also going to link in this week's show notes to clips that you can watch over at Ustream if you missed any of the action live on Saturday. Most of the 5 hours should be there. But in addition to announcing the contest winners, I also had 3 other announcements that I wanted to share with you in case you weren't there to catch them live. The first announcement is about the WDW Radio iPhone app. I launched a free app about 2 years ago that gave you easy access to the shows, the forums, the blogs, and some other content. When Apple released iOS 5, it broke my app, and the Android users probably quietly giggled a little bit inside because up to that point there was no Android version for them. So the first announcement I made is that we have been developing a brand new app redesigned from the ground up that has more features, a better interface, more links, and lots more to it. And best of all, it's going to have a price tag of free. And maybe even better yet, Android users and others, you can rejoice because it will also be available on other platforms, including Android. So stay tuned for more information about the exact release date, which I promise is coming very, very soon. As long as we're sort of keeping in the spirit of Disney and trying to make what we have even better, I also announced something else that we've been working on for some time as well, that as part of the 5-year celebration, I'm going to be launching an all-new WDWRadio.com website. Again, redesigned from the ground up to give you easier access to more content, better navigation, better content, easier ways to find the things that you love and that you're looking for, and a better overall experience on the site. It should actually be live probably on Tuesday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. I will say to my wife, look, honey, it's the gift that will literally keep on giving all year long. Again, stay tuned to Twitter and Facebook. I'll announce when that conversion takes place. But again, look for the new site probably start propagating on Tuesday, February 14th. And then I saved what I think was the biggest announcement for last. And in the past 5 years, I've been blessed with the ability to wake up every day feeling like it is Christmas morning to me because I'm doing something that I love so much. I'm sharing something that I'm so passionate about with other people. I continue to meet so many great friends as I have over the past 5 years, and I'm privileged to have had the ability to meet and interview, and in some cases even befriend people whose work I've admired, enjoyed, and in many cases grew up with. And looking back on 5 years and picking a favorite is tough because I love every show for different reasons. And when I look back on the past 5 years, I will talk about some of my personal favorites, but there are a few that really stick out and resonate, and I still enjoy listening to because of the stories that they shared with me and with you. And so as we're getting ready for our next WDW Radio cruise on the Disney Dream, November 4th through the 8th, I really wanted to make it even better, even more special than the first one, which admittedly, for me personally, was the best Disney experience I've had in the past 8 years of doing this, since going back and writing my first book. So I thought of bringing someone on who could make it something really special for those of us who are going on the cruise together. And when I looked back at the lists of guests that I've had in the past 5 years on WDW Radio, one name for me sat right at the top of that list. And I always tell you at the end of the shows and on Twitter and Facebook to dream big, because that's what I do every day, and that's what I did here. I reached out to the person that I would love to have on there as a fan and whose work that I really enjoyed, and is now somebody who I call a friend. And I asked if there was any interest in joining us on the cruise. And I am so happy and super excited to say and share that I'm able to reveal our very, very special guest. And back at the meet, and while we were broadcasting live on the box this past Saturday, I gave people watching and at the meet 3 clues, 3 single words to try and give them a clue, sort of play a little game with them along the way to see if they could figure out who the guest was. And those 3 words were sugar, birds, and small. And I wanted to see if anybody could make the connection between those 3. Did you? What if I said a spoonful of sugar, tiki birds, and small world? Now can you make it? Because if you connected the music from Mary Poppins, The Enchanted Tiki Room, and It's a Small World, chances are the name Richard M. Sherman of the Sherman Brothers came to mind, and he is our very, very special guest on our cruise. And again, I am super excited as a fan first for him to join us, and plans are already underway for him to share his stories, his music, and so much more with all of us who are part of the WDW Radio group. He is sailing with us, with the WDW Radio family, and the experiences and surprises that we're setting up are only going to be available to those who book as part of our group. And if you're interested in coming, or you've been thinking about coming, there's still availability in a variety of cabin categories. You can still go get a no-obligation quote, find out something that you can do. You can also get more information by visiting WDWRadiocruise.com. I will tell you that the ship is filling up fast, even faster since the announcement this past Saturday. So if you are interested, I suggest going to WDWRadiocruise.com right now. Again, I am so very happy to be able to share with you, and I hope that you can join us for an experience that is going to be unlike anything else, in a very unique setting, which is going to afford everybody a personal experience for all of us. Again, it's limited to our group, not the entire ship, which is going to really make it something special. Again, those dates, November 4th through the 8th, 2012. I hope you can join us. Hope you go back, listen to my interviews with Richard Sherman. I'll post them in this week's show notes over at WDWRadio.com. The first one was show number 80 a number of years ago. That still, for me, is my favorite episode of the show and my favorite interview among so many that I enjoyed so much. Also, one final reminder about the 5-year anniversary. Please remember that there are still some limited edition 5-year anniversary pins still available. Those are $10 each. The proceeds from the sales of those pins goes to benefit our Dream Team project, which raises money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation of America. So know that your pin purchase is going to go to a very, very good cause. You can find out more either by visiting WDWRadio.com/shop or our 5-year anniversary site at WDWRadio.com/5. Thank you again. I hope you're excited about the announcements, whether it's the app or apps, plural, the new website, and of course, Richard Sherman joining us on our cruise in November. Here is to the past 5 years, thanking you so very much for making that possible for me, and to the next 5 years and beyond. Again, my sincerest thanks for all that you have done to allow that to be possible. Your support and your friendship, and by listening for all these years, has truly allowed me to live my dream each and every day, and I am forever and sincerely grateful to each and every one of you for allowing me to make that happen.
It's a world of laughter, a world of tears. It's a world of hopes and a world of fears. There's so much that we share that it's time we're aware It's a small world after all. 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 It's a small, small world.
That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks again for taking the time and tuning in this and every week. Thanks also to my guest, Jim Korkis. Don't forget that his book, The Vault of Walt, is our current selection in our WDW Radio Disney Book Club. You can visit the blog over at WDWRadio.com. You can talk to Jim there in the comment section, ask and answer questions while you're there as well. You can also find a link there to where you can purchase Jim's book right over at Amazon.com. Hope you guys also enjoyed our announcements. Look for the new site to be up probably in the next day or so, as well as the app in the next few days. And, of course, Richard Sherman joining us in November. Super excited about the cruise, and we'll have more information about that coming out as well. Don't forget to, lots more going on the new website. Please go check it out, explore around. If you find any little gremlins in there, any little bugs, please let me know. You can email me with that or anything else over at lou@wdwradio.com. You can call the voicemail, be heard on the air at 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-9391. Also, be sure to come by every Wednesday. If you missed the 5-year anniversary broadcast, we do it every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern over at WDWRadioLive.com. Now you can access it on the new site right from the homepage. Watch, chat, ask and answer questions right from there. We'll talk about this week's Walt Disney World news and lots more. You can also catch it on the blog in the iTunes feed as well. Stay tuned to the website and the events page for more information about our next Meet of the Month in Walt Disney World, as well as other special events, including the cruise. If you are going to be down for the Princess Marathon the weekend of February 25th, I'll be down there cheering on members of the WDW Radio running team and everybody who's participating. So please come by and say hi. We'll be out in the tents early in the morning before you guys head out to the corrals. We'll also be on the course cheering and at the finish line as well. Hope to see you guys out there as well. Big thanks again to my partners and sponsors, Mouse Fan Travel. Becky Mankin, who joined us for the 5-year anniversary. She also gave away not one, but 2 Walt Disney World vacations. And whether you're going to Disney World, Disneyland, you're coming with us on the cruise, going anywhere, please go and visit Mouse Fan Travel. Becky and her team of agents really give an exceptional level of personal service. When you're coming down to Walt Disney World, maybe you want to stay at a place a little bit bigger. You're bringing the extended family. You want a 2-bedroom condo, maybe a 7-bedroom home with complete kitchens and game rooms and spas and pools of your own. Visit All-Star Vacation Homes. When you stay right in the heart of Disney World, my favorite place is over at the Swan and Dolphin. I do so love the heavenly beds, the Mandara Spa, but more importantly, I love the restaurants like Blue Zoo, Il Molino, and Chula's. You can visit them over at swananddolphin.com. And as always, my friends, and now today more than ever, you are my friends. Whether we have met yet or not, you have proven that to me time and time again over the past 5 years. All I ask is that if you like the show, please help spread the word. Let others know about it. Tweet out that you're listening. Share links to it on Facebook or Google Plus or Pinterest. And please come by, rate and review the show over in iTunes. Very, very much appreciated. And like I said, I really do wake up every day feeling like it is Christmas morning with that same level of excitement to sit down and start working, because I love what I do and I want you to do the same. And if you aren't, start taking steps towards making positive changes in your life. And believe all the time and always, always keep moving forward. Thank you again for listening to the show for the past 5 years and everything that you have done to make this WDW Radio family so very special to me and others. So until next week, I hope you have a great, great week, everybody. Thanks again. See ya.
Hi, Lou. It's Emma calling from a cold and snowy UK here. I just wanted to call and wish you a very happy 5th anniversary. I can't believe that WDW Radio started 5 years ago. I was so late in discovering your podcasts. I remember starting to listen around the time of the Julie Andrews interview in July 2009. In fact, I bought my first iPod just so I could download and listen to your shows. So, my top 5 shows: It's hard to pick favourites out of so many, but I think it would have to be, in 5th place, show number 202, Exploring the UK Pavilion. I think you know why I picked this one. Obviously, it had to be in my top 5. It was a dream come true to spend the morning in Epcot with you, recording this show and looking at the pavilion in such new detail. So, a great experience. In 4th place would be show number 200, and that's the 200th episode celebration. I was so lucky to escape the UK again from snow and be in Walt Disney World in December 2010 for the 200th episode party. This show just like brings back so many memories of meeting some great people and being out of the box and actually seeing the box in action. So that's definitely a favourite show of mine. And in 3rd place, it has to be show number 193 with Alice Davis. That show made me laugh and cry. She's such a wonderful lady, and I feel like she kept you on your toes because you didn't know what she was going to come out with next. So that was a great show. In 2nd place is show number 204, which is the review of Blue Zoo at the Dolphin. I think we all know that you had a really good time and you really loved that restaurant, and I think us listeners got the chance to hear you have quite a new experience at that restaurant, so that's cool. And in 1st place, with plenty of honourable mentions, and go with me here, is all the top 10 shows with Tim Bananas Foster. I love the top 10s with you two, the banter, you just make me laugh. It's really difficult to pick one, but if I had to pick one top 10 with Tim, it would be show number 75, Top 10 Smells of Walt Disney World. Yeah, this show sums up why I love Walt Disney World Radio. Until listening to this show, I never realised that there were so many other people out there who knew that there were so many smells in Walt Disney World, and that the water actually smells. And when I smell certain things, it takes me right back there. So, that's why I love WDW Radio. So that's it from me. They're my top 5 shows. Thank you, Lou, for all your dedication and hard work, bringing us the shows every week. And here's many, many, many more years of WDW Radio and Lou Mongello. God save the Queen, and see ya.
Happy anniversary, this is Kayla. Have a great day. Have a great day. See you soon. See you soon. Bye.
Hi, Lou. This is Tony from Illinois, also known as Disney Fan 316 in the box. And I'm calling, first of all, to wish WDW Radio a happy 5th birthday. I look forward to the celebration in the Magic Kingdom on the 11th. And secondly, I want to say that I look forward to joining the WDW Radio run team, because I've decided I'm going to run the 5K this coming January. I'm going to get myself back in shape because I haven't done any running since I left the Navy 10 years ago. Thank you for everything you do and making Wednesday my favorite night of the week.
You gotta